So EA gave us a decent preview of the upcoming Star Wars Battlefront with this so-called open beta. It is open, it is not a beta. Come on, the game is a month away from launch, so what are they realistically going to change? The very best we can expect a patch a few months from now. Maybe. Anyway, I'll give you a TLDR if you don't want to watch the whole video. This is basically Call of Duty, but even simpler, and with Star Wars assets. It's a simple multiplayer shooter with no significant tactical decisions to be made, and definitely a product geared towards the masses. You spawn, you run, you shoot, you die, rinse and repeat. From the two modes available, the assault on Hoth, called Walker Assault, seems on the surface the most appealing with up to 20 players on each side. I would have expected way more in a modern title, but okay, sure, 40 it is. And a decently large map, faithful to the movies. Unfortunately, this mode is so unbalanced that you can expect to win the majority of the time if you get the Imperials, and lose almost without exception if you're with the Rebels. Once you get past the novelty of being in a not so massive battle in the Star Wars universe, this mode quickly becomes quite boring also. Spawns are annoying as you often have to run 100 meters or more to get back to the action. The AT-STs are really overpowered, the spaceships are very difficult to control with the mouse and keyboard. I tried changing DPI settings on the fly with my mouse, but even that didn't help much. The trenches for the rebels to hide in while defending the uplinks, so that you can get the Y-wings to help out against the walkers, are way too shallow. Why didn't they dig deeper trenches? This makes it so the Imperials often have the higher ground and can easily headshot you or throw overpowered grenades into the trenches and send you flying, making defeating the walkers even more difficult. It's not impossible for the rebels to win, mind you, if everyone is incredibly coordinated, but it's way too unbalanced right now, and I suspect it will be exactly the same when the game launches in just a few weeks. A quick word for the heroes: it's awesome seeing Vader and Skywalker battling it out in a lightsaber duel or taking out tons of players. It never gets old no matter how many times you see it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to control one, so can't add much to how they control, except that the nostalgia meter goes way up when you see them in action. The other mode, Drop Zone, is a bit more interesting. It takes place in an 8v8 arena of sorts, where you have to defend pods that drop from the sky. There's a bit more tactical cooperation involved while defending the pod's perimeter, but the spawns are still kind of ridiculous. You get shot and are randomly placed miles away from the pod that you were defending, and have to track back for ages to get back to the action, often too late to make a difference. It's even worse if you're trying to take a pod from an enemy. It can be fun if all the players work as a team, but it gets old fairly quickly. There's nothing particularly innovative or engaging compared to the Call of Duties of the world, other than the fact that you're in the Star Wars universe. For some, that might be enough, but I imagine that most people will be disappointed with such a lack of depth and strategy in the combat. As far as the graphics go, the game looks great, especially the scenery and those awesome skyboxes. I wish the maps were more expansive and there were more decent and creative cover spots, but with the exception of the fairly generic rebel faces, the game is very pretty and the atmosphere is great. The sound design is fantastic, faithful to the Star Wars movies, and creates a very cool and tense environment, so it's an even greater shame that there are so few players per map. Even on Hoth, 40 players is just not enough for it to feel like a proper battle. Performance on PC is very good. I can easily get 60 frames per second with everything set to Ultra, except while recording using Raptor, as is visible in this footage, where I'll get occasional dips and stutters and the frame rate lowers a bit. You can get away with a mid-range graphics card and any quad-core CPU, but the game will gobble up RAM like there's no tomorrow, so 16 gigs of RAM is advisable from what I've experienced. In conclusion, I simply don't believe that there will be any changes made to the game before it launches. 1 month is just not enough time for there to be any significant changes made, which means this is what we'll be stuck with. The other game modes will have to be seriously impressive for the game to be worthy of a purchase. Of course, Star Wars fanboys will buy the game anyway and will rave about it because it's Star Wars. But looking at the game objectively though, at least based on these two modes that were previewed, I'm not impressed by the gameplay, to be perfectly honest. Fingers crossed that at least one of the other modes will make the game a must-buy. And why oh why isn't there a single player campaign planned? I think that would be more of a reason to buy the game than the lackluster multiplayer. Oh, and before I go, for those who actually thought those awesome trailers we saw at E3 were representative of the actual gameplay, really? You're still falling for that? Come on, it's EA we're talking about. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Securing the area around the pod. Stormtroopers are to secure that escape pod. We have to stop them. We need to stop the Imperials from securing that pod.